This is day 5. I'm practice to speaking English fluently. So I hope I can be consistent. So yeah. The first article, UN International Literacy Day. Knowing how to read and write is very important factor in most people's life. But some people never learn these skills. How can we make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to become literate? Have you ever traveled to a country with a language that you don't speak? If so, perhaps you had trouble understanding the most basic things. Sign instruction, documents, packaging. Maybe you felt quite powerless. This is just a simple example that gives us a small idea of how hard life must be for a person who isn't able to read. Literacy is a major problem around the world. To acknowledge the huge effort of people working in this field, the United Nations celebrates International Literacy Day every 8 September. What is UN International Literacy Day? Since 1967, this annual celebration has brought attention to people in the world who don't know how to read or write. It highlights ways to combat this problem and the huge progress that has been made. Every 8 September, UNESCO holds an award ceremony in Paris, in which prizes are given to individuals and organizations who work hard to increase literacy around the world. How big is the problem? It is estimated that I'm speaking too fast. It is estimated that around 14% of the global population is illiterate. Within that statistic, there is some good news and some bad news. On a positive note, the levels of illiteracy have fallen a lot in recent decades. In just 1980, world literacy was at 43%. However, there are still enormous differences between regions. In sub-Saharan Africa and Southern Asia, illiteracy remains around 30%. What are the consequences of illiteracy? There is a strong connection between illiteracy and poverty. People who can read and write have an enormous advantage over those who can when it comes to studying and training. This means that literate people generally earn more money and even enjoy better health. The UN also report more negative attitudes towards women in society with lower literacy levels. What is the situation for women and girls? A study by the a study by the UN showed that almost 83% of women and girls are able to read and write. However, two-thirds of all illiterate people in the world are female. The problem is due to factors such as insufficient educational opportunities for girls or the tradition in some countries for girls to get married at a young age. Many organizations work to try to empower women and girls by teaching them literacy skills. What is the situation for men and boys? The same UN study showed that internationally 90% of men and boys are able to read and write. However, in many Western countries, girls generally show better literacy than boys. Experts suggest that this is due to educational. I'm sorry about that. It's due to education techniques, which don't always suit boys, as well as the option among some boys that reading and writing are girly things to do. How is technology changing things? In the digital, cepetan, too fast. In the digital era, learning to read and write has become more accessible. With the internet and the popularity of devices like computers and smartphones, UNESCO suggests that literacy has become more important than ever as the world changes towards a knowledge-based society which depend on communication rather than creating physical products. What is the truth of literacy? Some experts argue that we need to change our idea of literacy. These days, knowing how to read is a limited skill if the same person doesn't know how to use a computer or smartphone. Some suggest that we need to expand the idea of literacy to include skills such as knowing how to use a web browser, create a document on a computer, or even send a text message by phone. How can I participate? Many liberation and universities organize events to celebrate International Literacy Day, often inviting famous writers to participate. Check out hashtag Literacy Day on social media to see what's happening in your region. The second article, UN World Humanitarian Day. What risks do people face when they are in the countries at war? And why are humanitarian workers a target for attacks? The UN World Humanitarian Day puts the focus on this important question. At the United Nations, 19 August is a day to reflect. It was on this day in 2003 that the UN building in Baghdad was hit by an enormous terrorist bomb. Most of the 22 people who died in the attack had been involved in humanitarian mission in Iraq. Among the dead was Sergio Vieira de Mello, the UN staff representative in the country. Every year, the UN commemorates the loss by observing World Humanitarian Day. What is the objective of World Humanitarian Day? This is a day to remember the brave humanitarian workers whose daily work can involve terrible dangers and even a risk to their life. However, it is also a day to build public support for the people at the center of this humanitarian work. The many millions of civilians around the world who have been affected by conflict. Therefore, 19 August is a day to ask world leaders to commit to protecting vulnerable civilians and to do more end conflicts in the world. Where do these conflicts exist? The UN has recently reported that at the time of writing, the world's humanitarian crisis is in Yemen. Due to war and a shortage of food, it is said that up to 75% of the population, that's about 22 million people, are in need of humanitarian aid and protection. Meanwhile, wars continue in Syria and South Sudan, and these are just a few of the countries where conflict is forcing people to live in extreme difficulty or to become refugees. What risks do humanitarian workers face? Humanitarian workers must often risk their own life to provide civilians with food, shelters, or health care. Sometimes these workers are attacked by people who want to steal food or medicine. Many conflict zones also have big problems with political or terrorist groups who see humanitarian workers as an ideal target to get international attention. What is hashtag not not a target? In recent years, the UN has promoted this online hashtag. It, its message is very clear. Humanitarian workers have just one mission: to help people in need, and they should be able to do this in safe conditions. They should not be a target at the same time. These workers travel to very dangerous places to provide aid for innocent civilians who have not chosen to live in conflicts. The hashtag also implies that civilians should not be a target. What can I do? It may seem as if the problems of the world are impossible to fix, but there are few things that you can do to help in some way. As a first step, inform yourself about the major humanitarian problems that the world is facing at the moment. With a quick online search, you will probably also find online petition asking global leaders to increase the help for civilians in conflict zones and for the refugees that come from this situation, or if you would prefer to help in a more practical way, try following the device from previous campaigns for the World Humanitarian Day. Do something good somewhere for someone else. So this is day 5, I think. I'm still speaking too fast and the pronunciation still so bad, so I hope I can be consistent and learn anything, learn again. So this is day 5. Ja, mata nih.